Germany, the industrial heart of Europe, is facing a crisis so deep that it threatens the stability of the entire European Union. Factories are shutting down, jobs are vanishing, and its once dominant industries are now on life support. But here's the twist. This collapse isn't just about energy shortages or global competition. It's a story of geopolitical power plays where U.S. sanctions, Chinese policies, and Germany's own missteps collided to create an economic disaster. And the consequences? They could reshape the future of global power dynamics and the world as you know it. Can Germany right this ship? In the decades following World War II, Germany wasn't just rebuilding, it was setting the gold standard for industrial growth. Known as the Wirtschaftswunder, or economic miracle, Germany transformed from ruins to the beating heart of Europe's economy. By the 2000s, it was responsible for a staggering 25% of the European Union's GDP, and its trade surplus was the envy of the world. Now, fast forward to 2023. Germany's once thriving factories are shutting down. Job losses are mounting and growth has stagnated. Eurostat reports a paltry 0.2% GDP growth for the year, dead last in the EU. What happened? How did the continent's industrial giant stumble so dramatically? To answer that, we need to unravel a web of energy crises, global rivalries, and domestic missteps. But first, let's look at the trigger point: energy. For decades, cheap Russian natural gas was the backbone of Germany's industrial dominance. It fueled everything from steel mills to chemical plants, keeping production costs low and profits high. But in early 2022, Russia's invasion of Ukraine changed everything. Under U.S. leadership, the EU imposed sweeping sanctions on Moscow, effectively cutting Germany off from its most reliable energy source. By summer 2022, natural gas prices in Europe had skyrocketed to €340 per megawatt hour, 17 times the levels of just 2 years earlier. The shockwave hit German industries hard. BASF, the country's chemical giant, announced it was slashing jobs and relocating parts of its business to China. Smaller companies had even fewer options. Take Müller GmbH, a mid-sized manufacturing firm in Bavaria. Known for producing precision auto parts, the company had relied on affordable gas to maintain its competitive edge. By late 2022, Müller's energy bills had tripled, forcing layoffs that left dozens of families without income. "We had weathered global recessions before," said the company's CEO in a local interview. But this feels like a knockout punch. Sanctions aimed at weakening Russia instead inflicted deep wounds on Germany's economy. But the story doesn't stop there. How Germany replaced its lost energy supply would compound the crisis. Please like and subscribe. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us grow. Thank you. Desperate to keep its factories running, Germany turned to liquefied natural gas, LNG, from the U.S. But LNG wasn't just expensive, it was also exorbitant. Transported across the Atlantic and processed through specialized terminals, LNG added layers of cost that German industries could barely afford. By 2023, Germany had imported 15 billion cubic meters of U.S. LNG at prices nearly twice as high as Russian pipeline gas. This surge in energy cost was devastating. Electricity prices for manufacturers rose by 45% year on year, forcing thousands of SMEs, the backbone of Germany's economy, to shut their doors. "LNG saved us from a blackout," remarked an energy economist on ARD News. But at what cost? Entire sectors of our economy are now struggling to stay afloat. This raises a critical question. Why was Germany forced into such a costly reliance on U.S. energy? The answer lies in the geopolitics of Nord Stream 2. Nord Stream 2 was Germany's ace in the hole, a pipeline that promised cheap and stable energy for decades. Built at a cost of $9.5 billion, it was set to double the volume of gas flowing directly from Russia to Germany. But the U.S. had other ideas. Washington viewed Nord Stream 2 as a geopolitical threat, arguing it would make Europe too dependent on Moscow. Under intense U.S. pressure, Germany froze the pipeline in early 2022. Then, later that year, it was sabotaged in a mysterious act of underwater destruction. While the perpetrators remain unknown, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Seymour Hersh alleged in 2023 that the sabotage was consistent with U.S. strategic interests. His investigation claimed that removing Nord Stream ensured Europe would have no choice but to turn to American LNG. Whether or not Hersh's claims are accurate, the fallout was clear. Germany's dependence on costly LNG added to the financial strain on industries and households alike. But energy wasn't the only area where external pressures hurt Germany. Its overdependence on China also became a glaring vulnerability. Germany's automotive sector has long been its pride and joy, with brands like Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz dominating global markets. China, as the largest market for German cars, played a crucial role in this success. In 2022, nearly 40% of Germany's car exports went to China. But in 2023, China canceled a $4 billion Volkswagen plant project, opting instead to invest in domestic electric vehicle makers like BYD and NIO. This decision marked a turning point, exposing Germany's vulnerability to Beijing's policy shifts. This was a wake-up call, said Jörg Wuttke, president of the EU Chamber of Commerce in China. Germany bet heavily on the Chinese market, and now it's paying the price for that dependency. Why was Germany losing ground to its Chinese competitors? Let's dig deeper. While German automakers clung to traditional engines, China was racing ahead with EV innovation. Companies like BYD and NIO invested heavily in battery technology and autonomous driving systems, rapidly outpacing their German rivals. By 2023, BYD had sold over 1.86 million EVs, surpassing Volkswagen to become the top-selling car brand in China. Tesla's expansion in Shanghai further eroded Germany's market share, while BMW and Mercedes struggled to stay relevant in a rapidly changing industry. Germany underestimated the speed of this transition, said automotive analyst Ferdinand Dudenhofer. They assumed their legacy brands would carry them through, but China had other plans. This isn't just about cars. It's about a larger economic relationship that's now under strain. Germany's reliance on China extends far beyond cars. In 2022, China accounted for over 250 billion euros in bilateral trade, making it Germany's largest trading partner, according to Deutsche Welle. But in 2023, Beijing tightened regulations on foreign firms, prioritizing domestic players in critical sectors like semiconductors and electric vehicles. German exports to China dropped by 8%, the steepest decline in 2 decades. Companies like Siemens and BASF reported significant revenue losses due to shifting policies. Germany built its economic model on open trade, said an economist from Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. But when one partner changes the rules, that model falls apart. Yet Germany's challenges aren't just about external pressures. Its internal policies also played a role. The U.S.-China rivalry has forced Germany into a difficult position. Washington's efforts to economically isolate Beijing often come at the expense of its European allies. Trade restrictions and sanctions have disrupted German businesses reliant on Chinese markets. For example, the CHIPS Act of 2023 barred German semiconductor firms from exporting advanced technologies to China, costing companies like Infineon significant revenue. Infineon reported a 12% decline in Chinese sales that year, according to the Financial Times. As Germany's industries suffer, the question remains: Is Germany a victim of U.S. strategic maneuvering, or is it complicit in its own downfall? Caught in the crossfire of great power competition, Germany's economy has become collateral damage. Its reliance on Chinese markets is undercut by U.S. demands to decouple, leaving key industries like automotive, chemicals, and semiconductors in disarray. Germany's trade surplus, once the hallmark of its economic strength, fell to 180 billion euros in 2023, the lowest in 2 decades, according to Reuters. This decline underscores how the U.S.-China rivalry has destabilized one of Europe's most resilient economies. The rivalry between these superpowers threatens not only Germany, but also the stability of Europe as a whole. U.S. efforts to curb German trade with China intensified in 2023. Sanctions and tariffs limited access to critical Chinese markets, while German firms face pressure to align with U.S. policies. These measures disrupted supply chains and further weakened Germany's economy. German economist Marcel Fratscher argued, U.S. trade policies are not only isolating China, but also undermining Germany's economic model of free trade. This growing tension underscored Germany's vulnerability to external pressures, but internal factors also played a role. Germany's ambitious Energiewende, or energy transition, aimed to shift the country to renewables. While noble in intent, it faced delays, inefficiencies, and skyrocketing costs. Meanwhile, Germany's underinvestment in digital infrastructure left it trailing behind competitors in technological innovation. According to the European Commission, Germany ranked 13th among EU countries in digital readiness in 2023. These policy missteps compounded the external pressures, creating a perfect storm for the German economy. Germany's economic struggles have dire implications for the European Union. As the bloc's largest economy, it contributes nearly a quarter of the EU's GDP. A weakened Germany means reduced investment, slower growth, and rising unemployment across Europe. The euro has already felt the impact. In 2023, it fell to $1.03, its weakest level in 2 decades. Without a strong Germany, Europe's economic future hangs in the balance. The U.S. Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 introduced massive subsidies for green energy and manufacturing projects, making the U.S. an attractive destination for global investment. For Germany, this policy created a green exodus as companies fled Europe's high energy costs and regulatory burdens for more favorable conditions across the Atlantic. By 2023, over 35 German companies, including Siemens Energy and BASF, announced expansions in the U.S., citing the IRA's subsidies as a key factor. This loss of investment is devastating for Germany's industrial future. According to the Wall Street Journal, Germany's share of global green energy investment fell by 12% in 2023, while the U.S. saw a corresponding rise. The IRA has widened the competitiveness gap between Europe and the U.S., said German Economy Minister Robert Habeck. Unless Germany counters with aggressive reforms, it risks losing its leadership in clean energy and manufacturing to the United States permanently. Germany's economic woes have sparked debates about its future alliances. While maintaining ties with the US and EU remains essential, some analysts argue that aligning more closely with BRICS nations, particularly China, could offer a lifeline. With China leading green technology investments and BRICS exploring alternatives to Western financial systems, Germany has an opportunity to diversify its partnerships. In 2023, trade with BRICS nations accounted for 15% of Germany's exports, up from 10% in 2019. However, pivoting to BRICS comes with risks. Alienating the US could exacerbate trade tensions, while over-reliance on China could repeat past mistakes. Germany must tread carefully, said Jim O'Neill, the economist who coined the term BRICS. Balancing traditional alliances with emerging powers will be crucial if Germany wants to regain its economic footing in a multipolar world. Germany's economic collapse isn't the result of a single factor. It's the culmination of energy crises, geopolitical rivalries, and domestic policy failures. The question now is whether Germany can adapt to a rapidly shifting global order, or if it will continue to decline. Will Germany's pivot toward BRICS and new alliances redefine its future? Or will it remain trapped between competing superpowers? We're glad you're enjoying this video. Please like and subscribe. Check out another video that is now on your screen.